A very warm welcome to today's masterclass. We are so privileged to have with us Babalwa Taliwe and Lauren Roman, who are both alumni graduates from SBF. And I know that many of you have asked to hear from our SBF alumni, so we are so privileged to talk to them today. I'd like to introduce Babalwa. And Babalwa started her SBF journey in 2009 when her maths teacher actually gave her a form for a scholarship. And she said that's when her life changed. In 2014, she graduated from Springfield Convent. And in 2015, she started her university journey. She studied a Bachelor of Social Science, majoring in organizational psychology and industrial sociology at the University of Cape Town. She then completed a postgraduate diploma in management studies and specialized in marketing. In 2018, she became an intern for Distel, and in 2020, she became an integrated insights assistant at an agency called Have You Heard? So quite the introduction, Babalwa. And Lauren, also very impressive. She joined SBF in 2009 and matriculated similarly from Springfield Convent School in 2014. She then went on to complete a Bachelor of Business Science in Finance and Accounting at the University of Cape Town. And in 2019, she completed a postgraduate diploma in accounting, also at UCT. She is currently an associate at PwC, which she is completing 3 years of articles to become a chartered accountant. She has a passion for mentoring and tutoring teenage girls in her community to achieve their full potential, and she spends her free time invested in doing exactly this. So welcome to both of you. And I am curious to hear from you. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now, in terms of how best to adapt from university to the world of work?
Yeah, that's the minute you read it, it was a bit of like that dramatic piece. But one thing I'll definitely say is that as much as academics does play a really, really crucial part, I think most of all, it's just that network, because I don't know about Lauren, but at university, especially at UCT, you got not ample, but like there was a lot of opportunities where you could join a society, or there were many talks. And during those talks, or even career fairs, and during those times, that was like an opportunity just to talk to people who are in the working world or in your profession and just hear what they're doing, how they're doing it. Because just thinking back, I think most of like my opportunities, or when I was at university, and just in terms of that transition, it was definitely the networking aspect. Even just getting the internship at Distel, it was a matter of networking, talking, and it's not networking like up, it's also just across with your peers, just to see, hey, where are you applying, what are you doing, like where's the best option. And literally for me, it was a friend who I happened to also be in the same study group with, was like, hey, let's apply for this Distel career internship. And it was more of like, no, they really want people, and I know it's difficult with work and exams, but like, let's just try it out, and it's not really going to take long. So again, that it's essential to network.
Networking up and networking across. So interesting. Thanks for sharing. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
I think the best way to summarize it would be, it's like that first day when you enter varsity and you just completely lost. It's kind of like that first few months at varsity all over again, where you kind of feel like this is completely new. I'm uncertain of how the next few months are going to go. So for me, I'm actually only working for the past 6 months. So it's still quite fresh for me in terms of finding my feet. I think that the best advice I would give is just make sure that you manage your deadlines in advance and plan in advance, because like in varsity, you have peers around you that are doing the same thing, but now you're on your own and it's your deadlines. Not everyone has the same deadlines. So I think that's also very important. And also just like small things like keep in mind that there's traffic on your way to work and you have to wake up way earlier than before. So like waking up at 5 a.m. to get to work on time, and just also like having traffic for another hour on your way home. And then when you get home, you have responsibilities at home as well. So you need to keep in mind that there's a lot of things to juggle. And also like with your theory that you learned at varsity, that's a small portion of what you're actually going to learn like for the rest of your life. So once you start working these training opportunities and other programs where you can network, like Babalwa said, like within your organization, there's also like portfolios and societies, because the job you're working in now is not necessarily the job you'll be at in the next 2 or 3 years. And the rate at which people are moving jobs is very fast in current times. So those networks are very important, like Babalwa said.
So interesting. And Lauren, you touched on some of this, but what are some of the biggest challenges that students can expect when they enter the workforce?
I think just like finding out, because you'll get a task and sometimes you just won't have any idea of what to do. And then based on you that you're smart, you passed, you've got a degree, that's not always enough. You can't always figure things out by yourself, and things are different in practice compared to how it is on paper or in a textbook. So when you're lost, don't sit and wait like an hour. You can try to figure it out, but don't wait for too long to ask for help. And based on that, I think finding a mentor is also very important. So like Babalwa said, like with finding networks, it's not always up, it's also across. So find a peer that's maybe a year older than you, who's been in your position not so long ago. That's also very helpful. I know with some organizations you'll get a mentor, but if you're not that fortunate, you need to go out there and find a mentor for yourself, because it's very helpful.
Thank you. Babalwa, what would you like to add to that in terms of the biggest challenges?
I think the biggest challenge from varsity to going into the world of work, especially in like corporate, I know I've kind of had like the mixture of both, being in like a corporate and then also an agency, but it's definitely, there's a level of hierarchy, and that can be very intimidating, especially when you're coming from varsity where everyone was the same. I'm talking mostly about students, and even within the lecturer and student relationship, it wasn't too formal. That's the UCT way. But going into a corporation now, it's definitely like this bureaucratic and very much a system of hierarchy. So it's kind of very like overwhelming, as well as you feel like you're the little guy. So asking for help, especially when you are in a situation where you have to ask for help, as Lauren said, but also just in terms of you're going to be given tasks. So sometimes a level of people management, especially your first 6 months, I think the biggest like challenge for me was people manage, because I would send something or send an email to be like, hey, could you do this? Or I need help with this. This is what's needing to be done. Or having to actually initiate talks with people. It was super difficult because you are seen as either an associate or an intern. You're literally the little guy. So even there's already that not equal playing field. So that is a huge thing. And that's something that's both structural as well as psychological that you need to break. So in terms of the psychological aspect is you are capable of the job. And 70% of the time is that 70% of the job you're going to learn while you at the job. So just scratch that part where you're feeling like you're incapable. You are learning at the job. And then the 30% is your actual personality and your skills. So I think definitely working on that people management and actually being like, listen, you need to have a task and this person needs to do the task with you. So there's that aspect of, I'm asking you which is the best thing, but it's also the aspect of, I need this to be done. Regardless if I'm like the CEO, CFO, or an intern, I will need that help. Sorry, I'm digressing a bit, but that's definitely a huge and also difficult transition that I feel like a lot of people most people battle with, that people management and the whole, not networking, but talking amongst.
Yes. Because conversations are key to getting work done in and through others. And there's so much organizational waste that happens through ineffective conversations. And I think a key piece that you've touched on today is making effective requests, which is something that we also cover in the work readiness program, and how integral that is to doing well at work and enjoying what you do. I want to pivot a little bit, but also touching on what you said. Babalwa, if you have to think about this time of transition, what would you say, and perhaps you've already mentioned, but what was for you the hardest thing about transitioning from university into the workforce?
Time management. It's not you. That was the biggest thing ever. Like, a due date at university was there. You might ask for an extension, and sometimes it's the same as well at work, but the aspect of time management. So for instance, a due date at university, it's set, it's done, it's that day. Here you might be given a project or a pitch, and this is just in terms of my working world, where it's said to be done on Friday, and then they're like, actually fast forward, this is what happened, it needs to be done Wednesday, and it's literally Tuesday morning, and you are frantic, you are frazzled. So it's one of those things where, okay, cool, so a pitch has been put for Friday, you kind of have to think by Wednesday this needs to be done. So there's always that aspect of you can't think, times are not always definite. It's definitely varied. It goes by someone else's plan. So sometimes other people's plans won't be on par with you. So you kind of have to over communicate. I feel like that was my biggest, like, time management and over communicating, and lack thereof of communicating, just assuming that, okay, everyone's on the same page, they understand I'm an intern, so definitely they need to be on the same level field as me. But no, over communicating, making sure that everyone is on the same page as you, and definitely managing your time and following up and saying, are we still on that time? So yeah, those are the two things.
Lauren, what did you find to be the most challenging part of transitioning?
I think also it's the same thing with just also time management and just not feeling like you're good enough in terms of like you're just an associate, it's your first year. There are people way older than you and more experienced than you. And just like getting out of that mindset and just believing in yourself and getting to what actually needs to be done. So if you're getting a task today and you have time to start today because you're not sure when you're going to get things to complete that task, when delays are going to come in, when there's going to be a lockdown or something that we had no idea that something like this was going to happen, but we had to adjust. So my biggest advice would be start with tasks on day one. And also with that, there's like on my work experience I work with a lot of clients, so my work relies on other people's work. So that comes in with Babalwa's point on communication. You need to follow up. You need to not be afraid to follow up. And if a deadline is set with somebody that you need something from, it can be a CFO, a CEO, it could be a director, it could be someone very important. But if a deadline is set, you are in the position to follow up, and you shouldn't be scared to ask for what you need, because that is what your job is.
Right. And what you've both touched on here are the soft skills, the things that we don't necessarily get taught in higher education or post-secondary, and it's things that you learn on the job. So if you had to think about it, Lauren, what would you say are the top soft skills that SPF students should really focus on acquiring now? I know networking has been mentioned before, but what are some of the others?
I think basic skills such as Excel. I know a lot of organizations use Excel, and just also the Google applications such as Google Meet, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and all those Google programs. And also a lot of organizations also use programs such as Outlook for emails and things like that. And also just your basic communication skills in how to send an email. When you're busy and you're at training or you're off sick, you need to set things such as an out of office so that if people are looking for you, they know you won't be at your email. And also, when someone calls you on your phone now, you need to phone back, no matter if you do not know what the number is. It could be something important. Because now, your reputation is not just your own. Your reputation is linked to the company you work for as well. So that was some of the biggest small skills that I learned that are actually quite important.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And that's definitely something students can start playing with right now, which is cool. Babalwa, what do you say are the important soft skills to start?
Lauren touched on them, but I definitely think time management. We've taken time management in terms of arriving on time at work, but even within meetings, being like the first person there within a 5-minute gap, that's important. Even as much as we're not really having physical meetings, just being on time, before on a Zoom call or Google Meets call, 2-3 minutes, it just sets a precedent where, okay, cool, this person is serious. There's no feeling of okay, cool, she's not taking this seriously, or she was busy with something else, or finishing this proposal. It's you were there, you were prepared. Another thing I think a soft skill is the following up. So from your interview, even after just a job interview, just sending a message or a text. I also learned this is so important after your message, just to the HR person or anyone you were in contact with the interview, just to say, thank you so much for interviewing me. I appreciate the time and the effort. That plays a really huge thing. And they actually show how serious this person is for a job. And again, as Lauren said, emails, just being able to, even within your calendar, booking out times where I know a lot of people look at someone's calendar and they see, okay, cool, this person's busy, this person isn't so busy, so I can put a meeting here. So booking out your time actually plays a huge role, where it's okay, cool, someone shouldn't really all the time have to email you to be okay, our meeting's this time, what time should the meeting be? It's already assumed because of your block bookings. And in general, just again, how you follow up on emails, or even just your emails, first thing, hi, so-and-so, I hope you well, is a huge thing. Then just going straight into what you're asking that person. We need to kind of check as if you were going to speak to them. Tone is a huge thing, and especially with emails, sometimes you don't know the tone of a person, so you assume. So definitely, I think following up, just again, having the basics of being on time, not just at work, but in all meetings, in all aspects.
And that key piece on email etiquette.
Yeah, email etiquette.
Yeah.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, please, Lauren.
So also just where Babalwa says that, I hope you're well in your email. You need to also keep that in mind if you're meeting up with someone in a meeting, especially if it's a client or something like that. Don't just jump into the conversation. Make sure that you acknowledge the person and say hi and how are you, and have some small talk before you just jump into the conversation, because it actually makes the interaction very interpersonal and disconnected when you just jump into the conversation. And also another thing is, within meetings, making notes is very important, because yes, you feel like you can remember everything, but when you've had 4 meetings a day, it's impossible to remember everything.
Yeah, that's key. Making notes, and in a place where it's accessible, I'm guessing too, and that you can access it easily afterwards. And as a final question today, And possibly one of the most important questions is, what advice would you have for students to do well and thrive in their first job?
Well, from my side personally, I think just believe in yourself and just keep in mind you've come very far. Don't disregard all the 10 years that you've put in through school and through studying. You also need to just have a lot of confidence in yourself and be open to learn a lot more things and keep asking questions. And just remember, this is the start, and you need to be proud of yourself and just do your best. And when you're in distress and you need help, remember there's the alumni, there's SPF, there's mentors at work, there's family. So don't take the burden on yourself. So that's my advice.
My advice is don't be hard on yourself. We also learned this through being told by someone else to be like, okay, make sure through talent reviews, through being told by someone else, hey, this is what you need to do. So I definitely feel like, as Lauren said, like you literally made it through varsity. Like that was the trenches. You're just entering a more corporate trench now. So you again, 70% of your job is what you're going to learn at your job. So you can't be like, oh my gosh, I didn't remember this from varsity. They didn't tell me this, such a scam. No, like you're there to learn. It's a learning process. You generally can't be hard on yourself, and also have fun. Like working, as much as it's difficult, you don't have the same VAC as now. You have to apply for leave. You don't have VAC like you used to have in varsity, but you need to enjoy what you're doing. Like if you don't enjoy it, like try to find some enjoyment or just an introspection of, what do I really like every single week, or is this really going into my career goal or what I'm wanting to do as well? So it's important. And also just find like fun things within your organizations. I know some organizations have like societies or clubs, so get into that. And yeah, definitely just within everything that you do, have fun, kind of put in your personality into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have fun. Actually, I've thought about a bonus question that I haven't mentioned. I said that was the last question, but let's have a bonus question. And that is, if you could give one piece of advice in terms of how to make that transition easier between university and work life, what would that one piece of advice be?
Babalwa, do you want to go first?
Shalonze, you can go first, Lauren. You set the precedent. You can go first.
A moment for that one. I think just finding a mentor is just really important, because you're going to be put in a place where you've never been before. Some people may have to relocate and be in a different province. So just finding a mentor is good. Also just making new friends and just having many different opinions from your peers on like certain managers. Maybe this manager is a tough manager and they'll give you tips on how to cope with that manager. But then another friend will teach you like a shortcut in traffic. And I think just talk to your peers and just try to network and find out many things from many people.
Yeah, I think Lauren touched on everything, but the biggest advice would be, again, finding the mentor is a huge thing for me. And also just, like I think learning as well, like just learning, just learn as much as you can. Like just take in everything, learn it, and not so much the work learn, but also just in terms of like picking up on people's behaviors. Like, okay, cool, this person's doing this right. This person has this. So kind of, because at the end of the day, you need to take the initiative. So it's finding those steps to take the initiative. Like in order, like I know for a lot of people, like a leadership or thing, they always say you need to take initiative, you need to find initiative. So the biggest thing is to see, okay, cool, all these people who are taking initiative within like my organization, how are they going about it? Who do I kind of have a similar personality to? So it's the observation.
Observe and learn. Fantastic. Yeah. And find a mentor, as Lauren said, and reach out to your peers and have fun. I thought that was such a lovely piece of advice too. So ladies, we are coming to the end of our masterclass, but I would like to thank you on behalf of SBF for gracing us with your time, your valuable knowledge and experience. Thank you so much for being here today. And we look forward to hearing and seeing where your careers move towards and all the success that you will achieve. Thanks.
Thank you so much for me.